That's McCown and Shannon. Under normal circumstances, I think if in the second week of March, I told people that Bob Ryan was going to be a guest with us, I think people would assume that a significant portion of the conversation would revolve around baseball.
And the starting four for the Red Sox.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess we're probably not going to mention baseball in this conversation.
Well, I'm going to jinx it then. So
well,
I want to win that bet.
I don't know what you're going to talk about. We've tried talking about baseball at this time of year, and we've gone down the.
Well, they met again today, Bob. They met again today. Didn't last very long, but they met again today.
Well, they're arguing about something, but they're not playing games, and all they're doing is canceling more of the regular season.
Oh, hey, no, you know what they said today, though? You know what Major League Baseball said today? If we come to an agreement, we can play 162. Well, hold on. They just canceled the first.
They already canceled 2 weeks.
No, they're waiving that one in front of the players again. Full pay. The whole thing.
Yeah, well, I'll believe it when I see it.
Okay.
Let's get on with the conversation. Bob Ryan of the Boston Globe. A lot of basketball, I assume. So stay tuned. We'll be back after these messages. McCown and Shannon back with you. I was going to say we're at that time of year where you really start evaluating in hockey and in basketball, particularly where teams are and who really is a contender, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, the truth of the matter is we do that all season long. Fans do that from beginning to end, but there's a real emphasis on it now. And the one thing I guess we're starting to come to realize in the NBA is there may be one team that everybody kind of agrees on as a legitimate title contender, but I'm not so sure that there are two. There might be 10. Bob Ryan of the Boston Globe joins us to talk a little bit about it. I mean, take the Phoenix Suns out of the mix right now, Mr. Ryan, and I'm not sure who the number 2 team actually is. For most of the season, we would have said Golden State, and then a bunch of teams in the East. I don't even know if we can say that now, can we?
This presupposes that Chris Paul will be ready to go, and 100%. And this has been his history. He has never won a championship, in part because he's never been, at times when he's been in certain good circumstances, he's been hurt, and he's hurt again. It's no fault of his own. It did whatever he did to his thumb. Anyway, they had a 7 at one point. I know earlier this week they were 7 games clear of the next best record in the league, and they've hit a little bump because they don't have him now. Quite frankly. To answer your question, if you would put that proverbial invisible Luger to my head, said pick a team, I'd say Milwaukee. I still think Milwaukee. It's the combo is at the peak of his powers. Middleton's coming off a 44-point game. They've got Holiday. What they don't have is Brook Lopez. Whether they'll have him or not, I have absolutely no idea. And with him, I would say there wouldn't be any doubt in my mind, but there is doubt. The East is cluttered with pretty good teams at the top, but not, no historically great. And we got 2 of them, Bob and John, 2 of them that are dependent on great circumstance of availability. One is Brooklyn with this crazy Kyrie Irving situation, which is yet to be resolved about when and where he can play, and B, and of course, and the Ben Simmons thing. And then in Philadelphia, of course, the whole thing playing out there properly. So don't sleep on Miami. I'd say that. And, sneaking up on the rail, I'm not saying the Celtics are contenders, but they are legitimate contenders. They're at least one good player short of that. But they'll be the proverbial tough out if they continue to play the way they are playing now.
Well, they're hot as a pistol. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, look at 2 weeks ago, we probably would have put Chicago in that cluster, and they faded. And I think Brooklyn is an intriguing story. Everybody continues to want to talk about Brooklyn, and understandably, because theoretically they should be among the best teams in the NBA. But they've been in free fall essentially for a long period of time. and they might not even make the playoffs, for God's sake.
Well, they're in that nebulous play-in status right now. They are under 500, and yet that if you draw them, and if the New York City vaccine mandate has been lifted now, for those who don't know this current status of it, the Mayor Adams, a professed Nets fan who has publicly stated he wants to see Kyrie in the lineup and would like to have the vaccine mandate lifted, can't do it unilaterally. I don't quite understand how many hoops have to be jumped through and who has to, spin them for him to get it done. But if it isn't done, they're going to be in a position of quite frankly, of probably wanting to play every game on the road that they can, so they can have.
Unless they play Toronto.
Unless they play Toronto.
Yeah, because he can't cross the border, right?
Yeah. So that's not only is that unusual, I think we can safely use the word unprecedented situation in all of North American sport. I can't think of an analogous personnel availability situation. Can you guys? I can't.
No.
Nothing, never been anything like it. Okay, so that's the big what if there. Not to mention, at best, Ben Simmons would have 10, 12 games to get with it before the playoffs if he's back when they think he might be back. If he even makes it by then. He's got a back issue, and he hadn't played basketball in God knows however many days now. So they're just, to me, they're not a factor. There's too much has to go right. I wouldn't even worry about that.
I agree. I agree. I think in every case with Kyrie,
I'm going to say one, Bob. I'm going to say one name that can change. Kevin Durant. If Kevin Durant can change a game by himself, he can.
Well, yeah, look, he's a great player. Maybe you could say the best player in the NBA right now. I mean, I don't want to get into that conversation, but he has had health issues.
He always has them.
Always.
He's
always
so
has.
good. I'm glad you brought him up, though, John, because I love talking about him. I just hope that enough people who profess to love basketball understand how good he really is.
Yeah,
he really is something. And the fact that his powers of recuperation are amazing. I mean, he did come back from Achilles faster than any known human being on earth. And he steps in after missing all those games. And his first two games, he goes for 29 and 37 and makes it look easy, like nothing ever came in between. He always makes it look easy. He's such an incredibly intuitive and graceful player. So anyway, no, he's a force, but I don't know if it's enough from based on what we even saw on Sunday in Boston for them to get by a healthy or a full. Because once again, I always said I don't know if Milwaukee's going to be healthy with Brook Lopez. This leaves Miami, who by the way just got fortified.
Yeah, Oladipo.
Cavalry, Victor Oladipo showed up, and he had a good game right off the bat.
Not bad. 11 points in 15 minutes, I think, was the final numbers.
Effective. So there's every reason. There's a lot of reason to say, hey, they're the favorite. You could say that.
Well, Miami looks like they're the deepest team, don't they? I mean, they have lots of players in lots of positions.
They've got, look at their point balance. Their point balance is exemplary. I think eight guys between 9 and 17 points or something like that, Now they've been playing lately without Lowry. We don't know what this personal home issue is that's keeping Lowry out, but they've been stumbling about a bit lately without him. We assume he'll be ready to go in the playoffs. But if you're a Miami fan, you gotta be feeling pretty good about your chances. I'll tell you that.
Do you think Harden and Embiid can play together in the short term?
First 4 games indicate that they can.
Yeah. Yep.
Harden, he's such a strange guy. Yeah, I hated watching him when he was in that pound the ball 18 to 20 seconds phase. And then he gets to Brooklyn last year, and he really reinvented himself and fooled a lot of people, including myself, with his willingness to give the ball up, say, at the 12-second mark instead of the 18-second mark. And he piled up those assists. And his the early returns on the Harden Embiid partnership were pretty good. And not only is Embiid flourishing, but Tyrese Maxey is as well.
Right.
And so I have to say the early returns are very promising for them.
Well, and they sit second in the East as we sit here and talk. And they are a team that a lot of people has liked for some period of time who has not been able to get over that hump. And the question now is, with this current cast, are they actually a championship caliber team? I don't think anybody would deny potentials there, Bob.
No, I mean, there's certainly, if they get to at least get to the conference finals, no one should be surprised. I mean, Embiid is, you talk about a guy carrying teams. Embiid is emerged and is a phenomenal force. Excuse me. So, but you can make, I could stand here or sit here and make the devil's advocate argument for, 4 or 5 teams in the East, and based on if they got all their weapons. And you can even start with Milwaukee, what they're doing without Lopez. Lopez was a really important part of the defense, and he was an integral part of that group. And fortunately for them, Bobby Portis has helped make up for it to some degree. And so they're and you just saw what Middleton did on Sunday, 44, and Antetokounmpo. We've exhausted the superlatives on him a long time ago.
When a team is on a run, either positive or negative, it's really difficult, at least for me, I think, if you're playing well, if you're on a winning streak, hard to find holes, negatives. Yeah. And the converse is true when you're going in the other direction. What is it about the Boston Celtics that has emerged as such a big positive that has essentially turned their season around?
They have defensive statistics and metrics that basically say they've been the best defensive team in the league since Christmas about, but they still weren't having it show up with W's until beginning of February. Couple things have happened in no particular order. Jason Tatum, who's an immensely talented 6'10" player, has calibrated his game to where he knows when to shoot and when not to shoot, and when to remember that there's 4 other guys and some of them can actually help him. Something he was not doing in November and December, and he is doing it now. He's just rationing out his talent perfectly. Marcus Smart, who as recently as 3 or 4 weeks ago, I would have said, look, he's a lot of things, and I'm a member of his fan club, but he's not a point guard. Let's stop kidding people. He's not. He just isn't in him to be a true point guard. In this victory streak, he's been a point guard. Honest to God, he's had games where he's taken like 8 shots. He stopped taking the stupid threes that he used to take, the stupid ones, not the good ones, the stupid ones. He's acting as a point guard. His assist totals prove it, and the team success proves it. Suddenly, he's gotten the religion, if you will. Al Horford, I would have said in November, December, well, thanks, Al. It's been a nice career, but it's over now. Al Horford is playing as he did 4 or 5 years ago. He's fitting in perfectly with this revival of the younger guys, as I mentioned. Jaylen Brown has been playing his game, and they have a force in the middle. And the issue with Robert Williams, on the first couple of years of his career, was availability. He was always hurt. It was one thing after the other. But he saw flashes, and we kept saying, oh boy, if he could ever stay on the court. He's staying on the court lately, and he is a force. He's a defensive menace, and not only is a shot blocking rim protector, he's got the foot speed and the agility to help with their outside switching defense as well. And he's a really good alley-ooper finisher, an inside guy. He's a perfectly acceptable center, and on both ends of the floor, and that's a nightly force that they have. So, and then one other thing, on trading deadline, Brad Stevens swept out the unuseful players. Dennis Schroeder, Romeo Langford, not Josh Richardson, he was useful, and brought in one important piece of the puzzle, Derek White. Derek White is a and physically and mentally, emotionally, is a perfect 6-man type, and he's been a really big asset. But that's the big issue, I think, guys, assuming that they stay healthy, is they aren't that deep beyond that. They're only playing 8. The other 2 guys are maybe 9. They're playing Grant Williams, who's a solid but not spectacular player, and they really don't have a quality point guard behind Smart in Peyton Pritchard, and they're not very deep that way. And if they had one more player, I'd really talk them up.
Well, sorry, John.
Depth is an interesting question in basketball. In hockey, Bob, if you talk to a general manager or a coach, they talk about you need 9 defensemen and 15 or 16 forwards to go to the Stanley Cup final. How do you describe depth to get to a championship? What do you need?
When you get to here's my theory. I mean, I've observed, and when you get to the playoffs, and invariably coaches who get that pared down to a solid rotation of 8 or maybe 9. and then that's what they're doing night after night. What helps is having, as a guy off the bench, a 2-position player of reasonable consequence or a flexible player. Let's put it that way. Derek White is going to serve that purpose for the Celtics. Okay, Williams does to a small extent, because sometimes he actually guards 5 men at 6'6" at times, because he's so strong and he's smart and he's willing, and you can get away with it for a few minutes at a time. You can't have a steady diet of it, but he's reasonably flexible too. So, but those type of players, you want that, and also at least one guy who is a specialist in something, either shooting or rebounding or defense, but and that's what they don't have. They don't have that professional shooter, type. They don't have it. They just signed Nick Stauskas. Now he was coming off,
good Canadian boy. Come on now.
He was coming off 90 some points in 2 games in the G League. Now we know he's a shooter. Now he hasn't been thrown in there yet. We'll see if by chance he's the answer to the puzzle. Thank you very much, guys. But we'll see. But I do think that you want that specialist kind of guy as well.
To put it in context of last year's championship team, Milwaukee's not near as deep this year as they were last year.
No, they're not. And no, DiVincenzo's gone and Lopez is out and
Tucker.
Yeah, right. So absolutely. So it's different. I like them, playing very well, but you're right. Can they withstand anymore? I don't know. No, they're all flawed. They're all pretty good. I said they're pretty good teams, but not great teams.
Yeah, I'm not from Missouri, but I subscribe to the show me philosophy, and I've seen this Boston team and this nucleus, and I've seen Smart and Tatum, and lots has been expected of them, and in many cases, and in many ways, they have performed over the years, but not to the level you have to perform in order to be a championship team. And I'm not yet convinced that this isn't just one of those hot streaks that many teams go through, rather than something tangibly different.
I'm with you. I'm all Larry David on this. I'm curbing my enthusiasm. I'm trying to, but I'm encouraged. Now, here's what I said.
Yeah.
Beginning of February, I was on public record as saying, I'm tired of watching this team. Give me one good month, and then maybe we'll have something to talk about. And by God, that's what they've done. They've given us that good month, and there's something to talk about. But let's not get too far ahead of the game here because there's still vulnerability. But they have played really well, and they will defend as a rule. And Tatum, he's playing at a different level than he was. And he's a very, very gifted young player. And he's, by the way, just turned 24 last week. This is the NBA, modern NBA. He's a 5-year veteran, and he's 24.
We'll focus a little more on the Western Conference a little bit later on, but we haven't touched on the Cleveland Cavaliers.
No.
Over the last 20 years, the story with the Cavaliers has been really simple. If LeBron's been there, they're good. If LeBron isn't there, they're a disaster. Well, I think for the first time in 2 decades, the Cleveland Cavaliers, A, are good, and B, have a future, and C, LeBron isn't a part of it. But the consensus seems to be they're still a little young and probably aren't ready for the big time. You subscribe to that theory?
Yeah, probably. But, once again, injuries always are a factor, and they lost Sexton immediately. They lost Garland. They lost Jarrett Allen last night. And it could be for a pretty good period of time, apparently. And he was playing very well, much better than people on the outside, they realize. He was a major factor in their recent success. So, that hurts. That takes them down a notch, I think. But they were playing very well, and I think you're right. They're relatively young, and there is a future there. I feel, I do it for badly, because I like the fans deserve it, I think, and I was glad to see that they were having success.
Bob and I touched on it on the show yesterday, because it was with Toronto being in there on the weekend. It was Barnes versus Mobley, and of course that was a discussion point here on draft day, whether you take Mobley or Barnes, and both are pretty good.
They are,
but boy, oh boy, that Mobley, I know he's a different style player, but boy, he's a really good basketball.
I mean, I think he will be the rookie of the year. He gets my vote anyway. And no, he's good. No, there's a lot to like there, and that's a good thing. You're right. I'm happy for them.
The other team, Cleveland doesn't get much notice, and the other team doesn't get much notice, probably for good reason, is Atlanta. What's gone on there?
Well, I'd have to stop and think about it, because they do have young. They missed Collins for a while, right? Is he back even? I think. Yeah, I bet you can trace it to some injury, but there's nights when they're potent. We've seen it, and Young is John Morant light. He's like AAA John Morant. Yeah, John Morant on nights. And they had that good run last year.
Yeah. Well, I thought they were a team on the rise. I mean,
they're not a huge disappointment, but you have to put them in the disappointing category this year. I'll be honest, I'm not going to BS you guys. I can't analyze exactly what's all the things that are going wrong. I can't do that.
Well, they could be a non-playoff team, and so the chance of getting it together after the regular season ends may not be in play for them. They got to start winning now in order to secure their playoff spot, as Brooklyn does.
Yeah. Hey, Bob, do you like the play-in round? You like this whole system?
I'm trying to accommodate. No, I don't like it. I live with it. I had we have to live with it, but I'm not crazy about it. I don't no, not really.
And it's here to stay now, right? When this is not a 2-year experiment.
Yeah, I'm going to have to acknowledge that that's the deal, but I'm not crazy about it. No.
Well, I assume you hate the wild card in baseball.
Different.
Would I like to go back to just pennant races in the ALCS and LCS? Yeah. I'm getting used to that too, and that's all I can say. No, that doesn't bother me as much. No.
Well, it just seems to me to be. I mean, you play 82 in the NBA, 162 in baseball, and then okay, here you go, one game.
Oh, the one thing is, yeah. Now you're right. No, baseball. I in a best of all worlds, baseball would restrict itself, but and then the idea, guys, that one of the bones of contention in the current impasse is the difference of it. One group wants 12 playoff teams, the other one's 14. I just put my hands over my ears when I hear that. I didn't want to discuss that, but that's going to happen. Somebody's going to win in that battle.
I want to get to the West, but I also want to talk a little bit about the Toronto Raptors. We haven't mentioned them. They're in the playoff picture right now, and of course, Canada's team. We'll do that when we come back. Bob Ryan is with us. Back after these messages. McCowan and Shannon and Bob Ryan of the Boston Globe has joined us. We haven't mentioned the Toronto Raptors, and it's an intriguing team from a whole bunch of perspectives, not the least of which is the makeup of this team from day one has been a whole bunch of guys who are 6'9", no traditional center, no traditional number two. And when Van Vliet is out, as he has been, there isn't even a traditional point guard. And they hang around, and they had that 8-game winning streak.
Yeah.
But this is a team that is Jekyll and Hyde. One night they look like, boy, they're going to be really tough to beat. And the next night they look like they can't beat anybody. Give me your assessment from afar on the Toronto Raptors. I had done
my homework in anticipation of being on with you guys, because I don't have a whole lot to say about it. You're right. They have fallen off the basic radar screen in this discussion in the East, because there've been so many teams that had particular stories to tell, and they don't. And they're. I don't know. I just know every once in a while Siakam goes off, and I see that. But I'm afraid I'm going to have to plead ignorance, guys. I'm honest to God. I'm sorry. I can't help you on your team.
Well, I think we all have.
Could you play wing? Because this team seems to be banged up enough all the time. That's their biggest issue.
Well, so many teams, but I don't know. I'm sure we could go back to the 1946-47 season and find injuries as a factor with somebody. But it just seemed that it's the topic, if not A, B, and C, with all the time in now in this league. And I mean, look at the Lakers. Look at and with Anthony Davis and on and on. I don't know. So all I can say is this, guys. No one in the earth knew who Nick Nurse was when he got the job, but they ought to know now.
Oh, I think so. Well, he's got a ring.
It's fascinating.
Usually you get one of those, you're pretty much known.
It was followed by Eric Spoelstra too. in terms of the fact that people had no idea who he was when Pat Riley anointed him, and he's going to the Hall of Fame. And here's Nick with a ring and keeping his team afloat, and as he has. And I'm just saying that. So I got to give him some credit.
Do you subscribe to big man basketball still?
I like to think that somebody's going to come along and just show people that there's still plenty of merit in all those twos that you get, from a big man. There's guys that can go inside and out right now. Embiid can post your ass up. Karl Anthony Towns can do it. Jokic can do anything, but he can do it. But the old the plotting big man thing is there used to be a raft of backup centers. I used to call them what I used to call them. I had a name for the big white, big white centers. There were the backup centers.
Like Vlade Divac.
Well, he was, yeah, okay. Well, he was guys that weren't even anywhere near that good. Oh, like the Plumleys, for example.
Sure.
Pick a Plumlee. They're like throwbacks. But the modern big man is a much.
Tom Boerwinkle. How's Tom Boerwinkle?
Oh, Boerwinkle. There you go. Now Boerwinkle was a passer.
Yeah.
Boerwinkle's great forte, other than rebound. He went to a 37 rebound game. You can look that one up. I know that he could pass the
My
ball.
God.
They could run a high post offense with those forwards on the baseline, Love and Walker, and he could pass the ball. No, there was lots of them. All right, we got one. Ready? We had a classic. Great kite.
Great kite.
He had a great kite, and he had like a 10-year career. There's no great kites around. They're going to have 10-year careers today. That's obsolete. So no. But I'd love to see it come back. All I want, guys, is balance. I hate the three because of the emphasis on it.
Right.
And I saw one just the other day. I forget, a classic. Some big man on a game I was watching caught the ball. He was 2 feet from the basket. All he has to do is turn a little jump hook. No, he passes it right back out because they're all trained. If that guy's open in the corner, you got to give him the ball for that three. To me, that's stupid.
One of the things that has intrigued me, and I don't know whether I'm accurate or not, but certainly here in watching the Raptors play, it was only 3 seasons ago that Kawhi Leonard was here, and the policy was instituted of giving Kawhi days off, and at blame for that, or as a justification for that, of course, was the injury that he had the year before, and the concern that they didn't want him too much too soon. And I guess that worked out okay because the Toronto Raptors won a championship and Kawhi was the pivotal factor in that. But we now fast forward a few years. The Toronto Raptors had a game this year, Mr. Ryan, in which there were 5 players that played 54 minutes each in a triple overtime game.
Triple overtime in Atlanta, I think.
54 or 55 minutes each. The Toronto Raptors may still have 3 or 4 of the 5 players who have played the most number of average minutes in a night. That whole philosophy of rest that became a big talking point just 3 or 4 years ago in the NBA. Has that disappeared? Is that over now? Did that fail? What's going on?
Well, that's an outside example. I mean, an outsized example, I'm sure, that particular game that you referenced. But for example,
of course,
I say the answer is no, because last night the Warriors played no Curry, no Thompson, no Wiggins, no Iguodala, and of course no Draymond Green. But Curry and Thompson both sat out just because, as far as I know. And they got.
But they may be. I think they may be. They may be the isolated case. They're the one team that has consistently done this over the last 3 or 4 years, where I'm not so sure I see that often with others.
Harden was held out of a back-to-back the other day. Horford was held out of something here last week. He was held out of I think a back-to-back. You might have to. It's not disappeared. Let's put it that way. I don't think it's disappeared. No.
Well, it has. I can tell you it has. John, let me ask you, Shannon, because you follow the Raptors closely. How many games off has anybody had for rest days for the
zero.
Toronto Raptors?
None.
Zero.
None. And but this is a team that has little or no depth, Bob. That's one factor. I mean, they when the load management slogan began in Toronto with Kawhi, this is a team that had a full second group that could go on and basically win a game themselves.
Yeah,
they had enough depth to do it. This team has no depth.
Well, you got to play your hand you're dealt, I guess, kind of thing. But I'm as the whole thing, obviously for us older folks has always been a sticking point. When you go back to ye olden days, and you can lead the league. What leads the league in minutes played now? Not even 40, right? I don't think you don't have to average 40 to lead the league in minutes played anymore. And I remember, in the 1969 finals, Russell and Havlicek both played all 48 minutes, all 7 games.
Wow.
And
wow.
Now I go, that's 53 years ago. I understand that, but still, that's the world I grew up in.
Well, and the other thing is when you look at the Warriors, where are they going in the standings between now and the playoffs?
Yeah, that's it. That's I was going to bring that up, John. They're not catching Phoenix.
No,
they're not worried if they're 2-3. They're not. No, their biggest concern obviously is getting healthy, is getting Thompson as close back to where he once was as they can, of course. But guess what? You know where they're going without Draymond Green? Home. Eventually, sooner than they'd like. If they don't get him back, and I don't know what the deal with that back is. They're saying, now I read something this morning that Steve Kerr saying he's feeling better, but I don't know how much closer that brings him to playing basketball. They have to have him, period.
I mean, that you want to be in the top 6. You don't want to have to play in the play-in round. And how important in those first 2 rounds of playoffs is home court?
I believe, and to me, it's a given if you follow this league over the years, right? If you ask any coach, would you want home team or a completely healthy team? And I want the healthy team. I'll take my chances. I can win 1 game on the road in the series. So you got to win a series. You got to win 1 game in a row, theoretically, right? So I can do that. We can do that. We won games. We won road games all year, didn't we? We weren't 0-41 on the road, damn it, So no, it's clear. Health, and then location. Now, you want to play game 7 at home? Yeah. There's an emotional factor there. I understand. I know I've covered enough game 7s that I've seen them all happen. I've seen plenty of losses by the home team in game 7, but I've also seen other games that have ended and the other team saying, "Oh boy, next year we want that. We want that home court next year." But that's after they've just lost, and So
well, demonstrative of that. I'm sure you can do this, but name the last 7-game series where the home team won every game.
Oh, I don't know.
Was that the Toronto Philly series?
I don't know for sure.
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
No, it's hard. I mean,
it's to your point. You got to win on the road at some point, in almost every case.
The first championship team I covered was the Celtics of '74, and the last 5 games in that series were won on the road.
There you go.
Either team.
We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Memphis, who reminds me a little bit of Cleveland in some ways, in that they're an emerging team.
Isn't John Morant the MVP?
This is perhaps the most intriguing MVP discussion ever.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about there's at least half a dozen guys that you could make an easy argument for, and it's going to be a lot of it's going to be a lot of disappointed people. He's a candidate, of course he's a candidate, but so is Embiid, so is Jokic, so is DeRozan. I'm running out of there's others, and
but he plays in such a small market, he doesn't get any attention at all.
Oh, he's getting a lot. He's making himself known though. He's the best show in the league. He's the number one. He's the best show. He's the best show in the league. They have a chance to have the best record in their history. Their record win total is 56. They at one point when they were 43 and 20, I know they needed to go 13-9 to have their best record, tie their best record. I'd like to see them do it. I like when small market, quote unquote, small market franchises do well. I really like it. And I know, but anyway, their team, one of those, you don't want to, you're not going to go whoopee. We're going to play whoever draws them in the playoffs. They're not going to be sending, throwing a party. They're going to be, you want to deal with him. He's really something.
Well, that and the you bring up the MVP, and like if you take a look at who might be a candidate, there are a whole bunch of guys who have never been in this position before. We've gone through a long period of time where the three of us and anybody else who follows basketball to any degree would say, okay, it's the usual suspects.
It's Giannis.
Giannis should be considered. But
yeah,
I mentioned four others. I know I'm forgetting somebody very obvious, and they're all legitimate arguments. And then again, when you get to MVP, I have a problem with the word valuable, no matter what sport we're talking about. I think it should be a most outstanding player, and let it rest it there, because MVP a lot depends on if he weren't there, where would they be? Well, if you happen to have a better substitute than the next guy has, you can get by without player X as opposed to player Y, and the player is supposed to be a player, not a general manager. So I mean, to me, I've always hated that argument. I detest the word valuable. I wish they had never used it in any sport. Baseball started doing it in 1931 when they instituted the current MVP award. Anyway, it's going to be, oh boy, when that day rolls around, it's going to be fun to hear all the crying and all the runners up, because they're going to be some high quality runners up.
I think we all agree with your assessment on MVP, because as we all know, it's almost impossible to become an MVP in any sport if you play for a team that doesn't have success at some level. Like if you're not a playoff team in the NBA, are you likely to be an MVP? No,
not in this competition. I mean, I remember, in baseball, there have been a few times that a team, because Andre Dawson comes to mind in '87. The Cubs, I think he actually finished last in the division. And there have been a sprinkling of people in baseball that have overcome that. But in the other sports, I doubt very much that you had anybody come from not only a non-winning team, but not non-successful.
Would you have voted for? Would sports writers vote for MVPs in basketball? How do they vote?
Oh yeah, the official award is a writer. I'm not voting any longer, but I voted for 40 years.
Yeah. So I voted for 10 years in the NHL for the trophies, and for the Hart Trophy, which is the MVP of the National Hockey League. Right. If the guy wasn't in the playoffs, I couldn't vote for him.
Every voter brings his or her set of criteria and feel and understanding, and we all have to respect that. That's fine. One of the great examples in all sports of a player that was so obviously transcendent, despite his and it was actually, the cause was aided by the incompetence of his teammates. That would be Steve Carlton in 1972, winning the Cy Young, going 27-10 with a team that won, I believe, 50 some games.
Yeah.
And that, if there ever a player, you say, well, where would they be without him? They would be further last. But if that doesn't transcend your incompetent teammates to make you he deserved that acclamation. Whatever word you wanted to put on it, valuable, opposing. To me, that was an easy one.
Could you imagine a pitcher in this modern day having 37 decisions?
No, I mean, it's that we can. Oh boy, how long would we be bogged down if we got into that discussion? Jim?
All right.
Hey, let's revisit it in June. I'll do it. If we don't have any actual baseball to talk about, we might as well talk about that.
Bring back Denny McClain. I think he could still win 31.
Yeah. He would lose 60.
Play the organ in between innings too.
Hey,
I got one more. I got somewhere else to go here. Because I don't want this conversation to end without discussing. I kind of held this to last because I think this is the most interesting discussion we're going to have. Maybe not, but 2 years ago, there were a lot of people opining about the two LA teams and which one was better and which one was going to win the championship more often. 2 years ago, LeBron with the Lakers, Kawhi, etc., with the Clippers,
Paul George.
Yeah. Well, this was a legitimate topic of conversation. They are now, one of them is below 500, and the two, the Lakers may not make the playoffs at all. In fact, I'm not even sure. I don't think they will.
They're going to be in the play. They'll be in the play-in.
Well, you can say that. Take a look at the standings. I don't think anything is guaranteed.
Well, New Orleans is creeping up on.
Well, What do you make of this, Ryan, as a general thought?
Well, the Clippers had a small window and it's shut, and they, it's not happening. When Doc was there, I thought that year I thought they were going to be pretty good, but that didn't happen. And the Lakers, before the season, when we looked at the roster composition of this particular Laker team, and it was the AARP All-Stars for the most part, and it was a ridiculous assumption. I don't know what they said, whether they thought, well, we got all these old guys and we know some of them are going to get hurt, but we got enough of them, but we're going to have enough in quality, enough depth to overcome it. And of course, it hasn't worked out that way. And of course, the Anthony Davis career saga continues. It's only a matter of time before he gets hurt again. And it's an atrocious roster composition this year. And Rob Pelinka, or general manager general manager James and his assistant Pelinka.
Yeah.
Let's face it, we know that LeBron had the approval for all this, and it isn't working out. The other guys, Kawhi got hurt. Kawhi's not been, and I can't even name half the guys anymore. They've had a major turnover, and it's not going to. So yeah, it is amazing how the mighty have fallen. Except that in the Clippers case, they never ascended. But they were on the verge, of really making themselves known in that city. Yeah.
Well, and two franchises are going to have a hard time, I think, in recovering from this.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to be able to rebuild. Neither one is going to be able to rebuild quickly.
The only reason I hold out, I won't say never for the Lakers, is the free agent factor. Will not LA always be a desirable destination, or is that a fallacy? Has that been proven, disproven?
Well, as time passes, I think less and less so, because we are all of an age where we remember the LA Lakers of the 80s and the dynasty teams, and yes, people are aware of what the weather is, but look, the Dodgers have been great for 10 years. Haven't won a lot of championships, but they've been great for 10 years. We're getting to the point where it's been a long time since the Lakers have really been a factor.
They sneaked that bubble championship in. And they sneaked that one in. But right now, that seems like way in the past. It's hard to imagine it ever happened. Then, of course, you got the situation with the Westbrook thing, which is not exactly working out the way anyone thought. And by the way, what's going on in his life is just it's despicable. This nonsense, this trolling on his family is just horrendous story. But the Twitter world. But anyway,
I tell you what, for the first time in his career, I actually felt sorry for him last night after the press conference he gave.
No,
I felt bad.
A little compassion. He was never an evil person. He was just, he had an attitude and he played his game the way he played his game. But I never viewed him as a bad guy.
Yeah.
But no, this is awful. Anyway, Bob's supposition, absolutely true. They're nowhere near. It's unimaginable now. They're both, neither one's close to a championship or anything like it.
Well, I tell you what, it brings me. Bob talked about free agents going there. Is having LeBron an asset to having free agents?
That's a very interesting thing. I've seen suddenly people are raising questions about, do you want to play for him? I don't know why you wouldn't want to play with him. He's still a premier passer. He if you get open, you can count on LeBron, I think. But I don't know what night in and night out, day in, day out presence he is. I don't know what the effect of having that overwhelming personality and that and his cachet. I have no idea what it's like. So maybe he isn't the most desirable guy to play with. I don't.
Well, he's a diminishing, if not diminished, asset.
Well, he's going
to. He threw in 56 the other night.
He's going to stay and play in order to be the highest scoring player in the history of the game. He's going to stay that long because he can physically. He can, right?
Yeah. No, he's having a excellent individual statistical year. There's no question about it.
Hey, Bob. HBO's got the Jerry Buss show. Did you watch it the other night?
No, but I shall pick up on it because obviously having lived through it, 2,000 miles away as the party of the second part, as it will, the Celtics being the other part of the story. Of course, I'm curious. I just want to see these actors. I want to see the guy playing Magic Johnson. I want to see the guy playing. I was reading up on the guy playing Kareem. He's a 6'8" guy who actually has a hook shot, supposedly. It's fascinating.
Michael Chiklis is Red Auerbach. That's
guys, I remember I had no idea who Jerry Buss was. I'd never heard of him. In the 1979 finals, Seattle and the Bullets. And I remember being in LA with my friends, the LA writers, and they were telling us about this guy that just bought the team from Jack Kent Cooke, this real estate guy, Dr. Jerry Buss. It's a doctor of chemistry,
yeah,
PhD. And, and it's going to be interesting, but no one had any idea of the impact, that all was going to, he would have. He was a great owner because at their prime, they had the perfect chain of command. The owner owned, the GM GM'd, and the coach coached, and there was no confusion anywhere about that. And he let them do their job. He let Jerry West and Wiley do their job.
Early in the first episode, I will tell you right now, it does not paint Jerry West in a very good light.
No kidding.
No, you got to watch that.
Oh wow,
fascinating. I was hoping to have you on. I hope you had seen it. So the next time we have you on.
Well, that's thank you for reminding me. But I did read up on it a little bit this morning. Yeah.
Well, there's the hook. Now you're committed to watching, I think.
Right.
But I think we all are. I mean,
anybody
who lived through it.
It was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah.
And by the way, no mention that when Buss bought the Forum and the basketball team, he was given the hockey team at the same time.
Guys, it was an incredible decade to cover the team. Anybody who lived through it in writing fraternity will tell you it's our favorite period of time. If you turn the clock back to January 1st, 1980 till January 31st, 1989, and I could relive it professionally every second, I would do it in a heartbeat. 8 finals in LA for this Eastern guy. Looking, we just planned our social calendar. We knew we were going to be in LA in the spring, Oh God. But the basketball was still, it was wonderful. It was great, bountiful time.
2 of the greatest teams of all time. And they just kept going head to head virtually every year.
And saved the NBA. Yeah.
Yeah, it's effectively what happened. Mr. Ryan, we're going to let you go. We always love spending time with you. We thank you for yours as always.
Even talk about the Red Sox.
We'll get to, when there's baseball, we'll talk about it.
We'll table that. Guys, thank you with you as well, as always. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Bob Ryan of the Boston Globe. We'll come back and wrap it after these messages. Thanks, as always, to Bob Ryan for joining us.
Did you see his face, Bob, when we started talking about Jerry Buss and the Lakers?
Oh, no, you lit up like a candle.
Oh, boy. And I'll tell you what, I don't recommend TV shows very often, but if you're a basketball junkie like the three of us are, particularly at that time in the history of the NBA, I was lucky enough. I met Dr. Buss a couple of times. It's a fun listen. It's a fun watch on HBO, and I guess it's on Crave in Canada. So,
well, that I lived in Las Vegas.
Sure.
When that 80s run took place. I spent most of the decade.
Well, by the way, so did Jack Kent Cooke too.
But at that time, Las Vegas was like an LA suburb.
Sure. The cable TV and the whole thing, right?
We got all the games on TV, all the games on radio.
Yeah.
And if you didn't like the Lakers, well, you didn't like basketball.
Right.
That was the team you rooted for. And so Jerry Buss was, I don't want to say he was the first kind of celebrity type owner, like who got real high profile. I mean, Steinbrenner in the 70s got a whole bunch of attention. He kind of set the bar, I suppose.
Different.
Sure, it was different. But Jerry Buss was kind of like Hugh Hefner, the Hugh Hefner of basketball. With he and
Hefner were buddies.
Well, but with the Forum and the girls around the arena and the restaurant in the arena where you had to, be an invited guest and
Forum Club,
I mean, it was extraordinary. And I haven't seen episode 1. I've seen the promos for it. But
I actually watched it twice in about 3 hours.
You want to tell where can I get it?
I think it's on Crave in Canada.
Oh, it's
HBO. Yeah, I think it's on Crave in Canada. HBO in the United States. It's I've been looking forward to it since I saw the promos about a month and a half ago. It's a fun listen, a fun watch.
Oh no, I've been waiting for it to get here.
Yeah.
So,
hey, by the way, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers. He gets,
4 years, 200 million.
yeah, and with $150 million guaranteed in a non-guaranteed league.
Here's the really interesting thing that no one will understand, including me, and that is, as a result of this deal,
yeah,
Green Bay's salary cap goes down.
Right.
They're now under the cap.
Because he's an existing player?
I just said, John.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't ask me
well
to explain it.
So let me ask you this. This is the first thing I thought of. I thought one other guy said, Aaron Rodgers got $150 million guaranteed for 4 years. Why am I retiring?
Tom Brady.
That's the first thing I thought of. That's the first thing I thought of.
Well, and for people that aren't aware, he has kind of left the door open to coming back.
Well, now if you're the 49ers and you're not getting Aaron Rodgers and you've parted ways in theory with Garofalo.
Well, wouldn't that be interesting too, that the guy who was the understudy to Brady in New England, who wanted to play, got the opportunity because he got moved to San Francisco, now gets moved out essentially because of Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. I don't know. I'm just that's a conspiracy theory, that one.
Well, and I guess the issue is which teams actually have the ability to give Tom Brady, like, even if it's not 50 million, if it's 40 million a year.
Tom's not taking less than Aaron Rodgers.
Well, maybe not, except Tom Brady, for many years, it has been alleged, took sizably less than his market value.
Yeah, but that was
New England and to win.
And to win. That's right. So Brady's a Northern California kid.
I know.
To me, that's the first thing I thought of is, okay, Brady's coming back.
Well, I'll tell you, if Tom Brady announced he's coming back and was available, I hope my team goes after him.
The other day is watch for the Denver Broncos. That's the other team.
Know.
Watch for the Denver Broncos.
Well, the Denver Broncos were supposed to be the alternative for Rodgers too.
Yeah, but now that John Elway is not directly involved, he's a consultant, but not directly involved anymore. So,
well, we shall see.
Maybe John Elway can come back.
Oh, I remember the drive. You don't have to remind a Cleveland Browns fan who John Elway is.
Ernest Biner on line 2.
Stop. We got to go. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for watching or listening. Goodbye, everybody.